everyone. Welcome to the voboss podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and today I am absolutely thrilled to have a very special guest, Emma O'Neill, with me today.
Hello.
Yay! Emma is a multi-award-winning voice actor, and gosh, don't I know it, I've seen her receive multiple awards at these ceremonies in the last few years. She specializes in radio, TV commercials, TV narration, promo, and corporate training videos. And of course, outside of her major success in the booth, outside of the booth, she is a fitness and wellness enthusiast, and I'm so excited to talk to her. And she's been a certified yoga instructor for more than 25 years. So Emma, thank you so much for joining me, and I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm excited because you've combined now two of the things that are becoming my favorite thing, and what I guess I've proven to myself over this health journey is that, fitness and wellness has really helped me in the booth so much. And I'd love to talk to you about it and your experience, because, you've known this for forever, I'm sure. And however, for me, it's just kind of like, wow, I can't believe how amazing I feel and how it's really helped me in my voiceover and my voiceover business. So tell the Boss listeners a little bit about your journey, how you got started, and how you got in voiceover as well.
My mother was a dance teacher, so I was in dance as a kid and gymnastics, and then we moved to Canada, and I continued with gymnastics, but discovered the gym and discovered step classes at the age of 16 or something, and it was just really fun. And it was
step classes. I have to interject
classes.
And say that my husband, when I met my husband, he was teaching step at a gym, in addition to spin. So, and I would watch him on the step. I just have to say this because I'm not coordinated, and he'd be like doing grapevines up and down the step and all sorts of dance moves. And I would be like in the back because I liked him back then, and I would just be kind of like trying to follow along. Okay.
You're cute, but I'm not going to kill myself on the step. Yeah. I'm just going to stay in the back.
Well, I wanted to meet him, so I didn't want to hurt. Well, maybe hurting myself. Got his attention, right?
Yeah, so I did step, but I was a gym kid for a really long time, and I got into yoga because I was at the gym all the time, and I had hit a plateau. I was really I was into fitness competitions, and I was training for a fitness competition, and I'd hit a plateau, and nothing was changing. Nothing was working. I would change my nutrition. I changed what I was doing, and someone suggested going to a yoga class, and I was like, wow, that's just like stretching. So they're like, no, go to this woman's class. And I went to this class, and the woman was in her late 70s, early 80s. One of her arms did not work. She had a stroke. And I crawled out of that class. She handed my butt back to me. It was one of the hardest things I had ever done. And I was like, oh, well, now I must do that again because, yes. And it was something I fell in love with the practice.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, that's fantastic. I can't believe you were doing step when you were 16. Well, one thing that I'm excited to talk to you about, because bosses who have been following me know that I kind of went through a health journey. I've been through a few health journeys in my life, but this last one seemed to be more significant than others after I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Things just kind of catapulted after that. And literally, my hormones got thrown off balance. I had actually just lost a significant amount of weight before I was diagnosed. And I believe that saved my life because I think that my doctor was able to find my tumors because of that, because otherwise I had a little, she was able to feel them. And so I'm very thankful for that. However, after treatment and after, mine was estrogen based, I then had, some chemo treatment, which, started kind of trying to block estrogen because it was an estrogen-based cancer. I went through menopause, and then I, throughout the years, it became one hormonal thing after another, and then the pandemic, and so everything catapulted. I gained a lot of weight and gained at least all the weight back on that I had lost previous to it, and then some. And this shirt that I'm wearing right now, so if we have our, if bosses are watching on YouTube, is my Wonder Woman shirt, which was given given to me by Natalie. It's a big shout out to Natalie because after I was reconstructed and declared cancer free, she said, "You are like Wonder Woman." And I'll tell you what, I have not fit into this shirt since I have now discovered again how important nutrition is and
Yes.
exercise. And I've come
Yes.
back from my health journey losing a significant amount of weight. So I feel like Wonder Woman. And I think you're going to be able to explain to our boss listeners why that's so significant and how that can really impact us in the booth. So, yeah, I'm really excited to really tell us what are you seeing is the most important thing that bosses can do to positively, let's say, affect their performance in the booth through nutrition and fitness and all of that good
Oh,
stuff.
one of the things I always try to drive home, and people tend to not want to believe it, I think. It's not that they don't believe it, they don't want to believe it, is that health and fitness is 90% nutrition and 10% what you're
Oh,
doing in the gym, on a walk, in a yoga studio. It's 90% what you're putting into your mouth.
mm,
And we are the the health and fitness industry, I put that into air quotes, it's a business, and it's a
yeah.
multi-billion-dollar business, because we're fed all of these lose a dress size in 30 days,
Hmm.
but no one's taught how to maintain the loss.
Hello.
Exactly. So we yo-yo, and
Yeah,
all of us do it,
that's
and all of
me.
us, yeah. It's not, you are not alone. You are not alone.
Hmm.
We need to learn how to reverse diet, and reverse dieting isn't something that's taught. So yes, you need to cut calories, calories in, calories out. It's just science, but you need to learn how to then build back up the calorie intake
Yes.
to maintain the weight that you've lost without gaining back the weight
Yeah,
by
I
increasing
think
your
that's
calories.
key. And I think if we all had the magic pill or the magic injection that could help us to do that, right? Isn't that
Yep.
what the craze is now? Everybody wants these injections to magically lose weight. And
Yep.
I think there's one thing to be said for me, having had a significant amount of weight to lose. It took me a significant amount of time to lose it, which I
Good.
think is good
Yeah, it's
because
great.
it really, during that time, I was able to really develop, I think, what I hope to be, health habits that will stay with me. And
Hmm.
I for one will tell you, I've lost and gained multiple times in my life, and I
Hmm.
am at this point in my life, I am too old to think I do not want to gain it back again. I'm terrified. I'm terrified to gain it back again, and so I literally am committed right now in my mind, in my mental space, to continue with. I think the eating. I think that's where it starts, right? With the
Yep.
nutrition that you put in your mouth. Because for the first year, I couldn't exercise really because I was so out of shape.
Hmm.
I just couldn't. I thought I might die, to be honest with you. I mean, and people
So scary.
say that. Oh my God, you work so hard. But I literally had a hard time breathing,
Yeah.
and so I couldn't exercise for a good year, and now I'm finally starting to. And I've seen where I still need to make sure that I know exactly what's going into my mouth at all
Hmm.
times.
Hmm.
And that's what really is helping me to keep weight off right now. And that, and I want to be accountable, which is one of the reasons why I'm so happy to talk to you and to find out more from you, because I feel like if I'm accountable to the bosses out there, I'm accountable to people who are can educate me on this, I'm going to stand a better chance of keeping the weight off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. With movement is important. Like,
Hmm.
one of the best things you can do for your body is walk. Walking is fantastic. It's, if you can, if you're sedentary, we're all sedentary being voice actors. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter if you're working out on a daily basis. You're sitting for longer than you're moving.
Yes.
So that
Hmm.
means you're sedentary. But if you can get your 5,000 to 10,000 steps in a day, like,
Hmm.
aim for 5,000. If you're sitting
Hmm.
down all day, aim for 5,000. That's a good start. If you can get up to 10,000 by increasing it by a minute of walking a day,
Hmm.
it's doing things in bite-sized pieces. And it's the same with food. Food, it's the everyone's biodiverse, so it means they're bio-unique. So not what works for me isn't necessarily what's going to work for you or what's going to
Hmm.
work for anybody else. But in general, especially for women, we tend not to eat enough,
Hmm.
especially during the day, and then we overeat at
Right.
night.
Mm. That
right?
makes
Because then
sense.
we're really, really hungry. And especially as
Sure.
self-employed people and our business hours are crazy and they're all over the place and we're working as the work is kind of coming in. I know that's what I do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like I'll get up in the morning and I do my meditation and I do my workout or I do a yoga practice and I have a great breakfast. And then it's 6 o'clock at night and I've had
Mm.
tea. And I'm like, now I'm going to
Yeah.
stand in front of the fridge and eat the contents of the fridge because I'm hungry while I'm
Yes.
making dinner.
Yes.
While I'm
Yes.
making
Yes.
dinner, I'm eating the contents of the fridge. So it's meal prep is a huge
Mm.
step. It's very
Mm-hmm.
helpful to
Mm-hmm.
have grab and go foods in your fridge because the grab and go foods will grab bread, we'll grab chips, we'll grab a
Sure.
banana, we'll grab easy
The quick
foods.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you've got like boiled eggs, tuna
Uh-huh.
salad,
Mm-hmm.
chopped salad ready to go, chopped vegetables with hummus, if you have things that are grab and go and easy to grab and go, but they're good for you, it's much easier to maintain or it's much easier to lose. If your goal is
Mm.
to lose weight, you have to meal prep. If your goal is to maintain, I think that everybody really
Right.
needs to
Meal
meal
prep.
prep. Meal prep.
Meal
Just keep
prep.
repeating myself. Grab and go and meal
Well,
prep.
you know what's so interesting is that I've tried every diet, under the sun. I've been on every diet. I've lost weight on most diets. It
Hmm.
again, it comes down to like maintaining and keeping off. But the one difference about this last plan that I went on was that I was eating every 2.5 to 3 hours,
Yep.
small, high protein meals, and that worked for me.
Yep.
And I feel like, and I was that person that said, no, I need to fast. I never was a person who ate breakfast in the morning. I always waited. And you're right. I mean, when you wait, when all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm hungry, I'm starved, and then everything goes in my mouth
Hmm.
quickly, and then it's hard to really, control what it is. And so I kind of feel like I eat like 6 times a day, at least tiny little meals.
And for
Um,
me, that's perfect as well. It's
yeah,
you don't need to be full. It's one of those things.
right.
I was raised like I come from Ireland originally, born and raised there. I came over to Canada. We did not have a pot to piss in, so it was whatever was put onto your plate you consumed because you did
Mm.
not waste
Yes,
what
that
was
was
there.
me
And if
too.
there was too much food on your plate, it didn't matter. You
Hmm.
had to eat it. Like it wasn't
Right,
put away. It was you will sit there and you will
right.
finish that. So I was raised with that mentality. So you would eat a meal and you would be full, full, full,
Hmm.
full, full, full. You don't need to be full. You need to be satisfied. And
Yeah.
it's learning how to instinctually eat that you're eating until you are, I'm good. Like, could I eat more? Absolutely. Do I
Yeah.
need to? No, I don't. Because I'm going to eat in another 2 hours
Yeah,
anyway.
right, right. And that makes a lot of sense because I found that when I did eat small meals, I could hold off until
Yep.
the next 2.5 to 3 hours. And I will tell you though, the other day I came back home from a trip and I'm still kind of on that plan. But my time was off. Like I went from the East Coast to the West Coast. And so I was overtired. And then
Yeah.
when I'm overtired, I think that's so dangerous because then you're not thinking straight and then you just want to put anything in your mouth. And I probably ate one more tiny meal than I should have. And I actually got full and I was like, whoa, it's been so long. And I was really uncomfortable
Yeah.
at that point because I had not been full. And then I was like, I might have indigestion. I'm not sure. Uh, and that certainly doesn't help me when I try to voice anything in my studio, right? When I've got like reflux, because that
Yeah.
definitely affects my vocal cords.
Well, especially like speaking of being full, when you're in the booth, you don't want to feel full. You
Yeah.
don't want to feel bloated. You don't want to feel gassy.
Yeah.
It's like you're voicing something and your tummy's making all sorts of
Yeah.
noises because you're like, oh, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's another gurgle in the belly. So you want to be eating fibrous foods, high protein foods, and thermogenic foods. Thermogenic food basically means that the it takes your body more energy to consume to
Mm.
digest the food
Hmm.
than the food is worth. It
So
was
you
like
feel
there was the
full,
old myth
right?
that celery was a negative calorie food because you consume more energy eating the celery than the celery had in caloric value. It's
Mm.
not true. But it's the same idea. So instead of having a protein shake, have a piece of chicken. It
Hmm.
takes your body
Hmm.
longer to digest something solid than it does to digest something liquid.
Oh, okay.
That's what
Interesting.
thermogenic means.
Very interesting.
So you're asking your body, it's like, so you need to burn more calories to consume this food.
Hmm.
Cool, because it takes longer. It also keeps you fuller for longer. So
Right.
you're not full. It's not that I can't take a proper deep breath. I can't use my diaphragm.
Right.
It's I'm full, I'm satisfied, but I'm going to be fuller for longer so that when I'm reaching for food again, I'm not starving and shoving it's usually carbohydrates we're looking for when we're really hungry.
Well, yeah, and I find if I try to stay away from carbohydrates, that was my my guilty pleasure was carbohydrates. It wasn't sweets. It wasn't, it was carbs because I was also, well, raised in a large family, and I think my father might have had a piece of bread and butter with every meal, and it was like that kind of bread potatoes sort of thing,
Yeah.
and that's what I loved, and
Yeah.
so that did not do my waistline any good for sure. But I mean, how do you feel in addition to like what you put in your mouth? How do you feel about your mental, I guess, mental state? Because when I got into this, I was like, oh, I just can't. I've lost weight before. It just nothing I am doing is working, and it's not. I find that I had very negative, oh, it's just I can't lose weight. How do you feel mental health effects? And I also I had very bad body dysmorphia, so I couldn't look at myself. And so, how does that affect weight loss, and how does that affect your performance? I'm going to say, on any given day in your business and in the booth.
Your mental health is paramount.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I start my day every day with meditation. When the alarm goes off, I sit up and I meditate because I'm still in kind of theta brain. So I'm not in awake, let's do things brain. I'm still in a different state where you can kind of program your brain to learn new things. And it's about, exercise releases serotonin, which is, the happy hormone,
Right.
the happy chemical. Like you want to feel good. And so you want to find ways to feed your brain and calm yourself down. Losing weight can be really challenging. If you are struggling with your weight, it can be challenging. And it's the devil that, it's so much easier to just go back to old ways because you know them. Even though they're not good for you or they're not healthy, they're not beneficial, they're easier because you know them.
Sure.
And it's more difficult to stick on a track that's initially a little bit challenging. Once you get past the first hump, I think things get easier. But mental health is really important. Like getting off your screen before you go to bed, easier said than done.
Yeah.
Surrounding
the
yourself
truth.
with really positive people, surrounding yourself with cheerleaders, especially in those times because we all have them that we're not going to be kind to ourselves. Like we're not
Yeah.
going to be our biggest cheerleader. We're going to doubt ourselves. We're not going to be as I can do this as we possibly can. You need to be surrounded with people who pick you up when you're in that state. So feeding your brain proper foods, feeding your brain, breathing exercises are fantastic. What you're reading, what you're consuming from an intellectual and mental level is really important for your brain health. But this is why yoga for me has always been, when I found yoga, it was so helpful for my mental health
So
because I struggle with anxiety and I'm an
right.
introvert.
So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about now. See, I just got into, I do some cardio. I actually, because I had complications with my weight gain and age. I was also diagnosed with diabetes, which also affected my feet a little bit and my
Yep.
balance. And so walking on uneven terrain is sometimes a little difficult for me. So for me, I have a Precor in the garage, which I always love Precor because non-impact. And so if I want to walk, right, that is my walking, and I also do Pilates. So for me, I think I think trying to build some muscle through that is also going to help me. But let's talk about yoga a little bit because I've not really done much yoga. But tell me, how does that incorporate? What does that incorporate for your body and also for your mental health, and how can that help us?
Me personally, I practice what's called Ashtanga yoga. And Ashtanga yoga is one of the older lineages of yoga. It's kind of the parent of power yoga or vinyasa yoga, so the faster paced, the faster moving styles of yoga. And I studied extensively in India. I spent a lot of time in India at the source with the guru. And it's not Western yoga at all. Like it's not pretty. You don't listen to music. No one tells you to, open your heart. It's you are told to shut up and bend your knee and do what you're told. And it's a really interesting way of being, especially from a Western mindset, when
Mm-hmm.
like I am independent and don't tell me what to do and I will do what.
Sure.
That's like, nope, then you can't be here. So
Mm.
it's Ashtanga yoga is about doing the practice, doing the movements, and paying so much attention to what's happening in your body and your
Mm-hmm.
breath
Mm-hmm.
that you're not thinking, like you stop thinking, you stop the spiral of the I have to do this or the negative thoughts or any
Mm-hmm.
of that, because
Mm-hmm.
if you think too much, you're going to fall over. The practice it's challenging. It's a very
Mm.
physically complicated practice to do. So it gets to a point where it becomes a moving meditation because all you're doing is paying
Wow.
attention to where your foot is, where your hand is, how you're
Sure.
going to balance, pull your
Sure.
core in, where's your breath.
That's so interesting. Do you now do you incorporate that at all in your booth? Maybe or during performancing because that's so interesting. I find that for my students, when I talk to students, I say stop thinking about what you sound like and be in the moment and be
Yeah,
in the scene. It almost sounds like you know what I mean. You could use those principles to keep you in a scene so that you can be more authentic as a
yeah,
performer.
yeah. That's a really interesting way to put it because I've gone
Mm-hmm.
back to, yeah, I'm a classically trained actor and I haven't been in, proper acting class for
Right.
decades. So I decided to go back to acting, like actual acting versus voice acting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've gone back to Meisner, and Meisner is exactly that. Like
Yeah.
Meisner is about, creating something, like making something real in imaginary
Yeah.
circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the
Mm-hmm.
same idea. All of this has nothing to do with the sound of your voice. It's got everything to do
Right.
with connection.
Right.
And your breath
Absolutely.
mind body connection is what we're trying to do
God, I
in
love
all
that.
forms of movement. And it's the same in what we're doing in our booths. It's breath, mind, and
Absolutely.
body.
Right. And it's absolutely we are trying to connect with our
Yes.
listener. And that is I think it's such an important concept. And it's such a difficult concept, I think, for people that are, just starting out in this industry because they just know it should sound like this. And I'm
Hmm.
always trying to get my students out of their listening, out
Yeah.
of their brain and into a scene where they can actually react and tell a story. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's got to be so interesting in terms of you practice it in that style of yoga that makes sense that you could do the same principled thing in the booth.
Yeah. And it can be difficult to cross the two of them over,
Yes.
but when you have those moments of magic, like, I mean, obviously you don't record with your cans on, you've got your
Right.
headphones off so that you don't fall in love with the dulcet sounds of your voice. And because we
Yes.
all we all do.
Uh-huh.
And when you a lot of people will talk about like you've got your engineer hat on and you've got your
Yeah.
actor hat on, and
Yeah.
they should never be worn at the same time. So that's why you're not listening to yourself
Mm-hmm.
when you're
Mm-hmm.
recording.
Mm-hmm.
And there are those magic moments where you just feel like you've dropped into,
Right?
like,
Yeah.
I am
You're like, oh,
really
it
telling
felt
this
right.
story.
It felt right.
Yeah.
I'm always saying, like, what did it feel like to you? Did it feel right? Then it probably was.
Yep.
It was probably authentic. You were in the moment. And it's so hard, I think, for people that are thinking so much and they're in their head,
Hmm.
when they're in the booth. So do you have any special tips or exercises that you would recommend for voice actors to kind of help them? Because I think a lot of times it's a performance anxiety in the booth. Even when you're
Hmm.
by yourself, sometimes you can just be too much in your head. How can you? Is there an exercise that you can do that can help you maybe relax, so that can help you get more into your performance?
You can do simple, I think it's called square breathing. I
Mm-hmm.
speak in Sanskrit, so I don't, when it comes to yoga stuff, I don't know the English
Mm-hmm.
translations of a lot of the stuff, but I think it's called square breathing. And it's just about balanced breath, that you're counting a breath in
Mm-hmm.
for 5, holding for 5, exhale for 5, hold for 5, and repeat that until you calm down. But the breathing is about, it's diaphragmatic breathing. So you're
Sure.
trying to make sure that when you're taking an inhale, when we're nervous, when we're
Mm-hmm.
scared, we only breathe into the very, very top part of our chest, like from our
Mm-hmm.
collarbones, kind of like to above the boob. And there's nothing else happening. And with breath that's going to calm you down, you have to get it into your body. So putting your hands on your belly, putting your hands on
Mm-hmm.
your lower back,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to feel your body expand as
Mm-hmm.
you breathe and not
Mm-hmm.
trying to stuff breath into your body. So it's just a very simple kind of seeing your body as a jar or a vessel, and you
Mm-hmm.
fill that vessel, like any vessel, from the bottom to the middle to the top. Let it hold, and then
Mm-hmm.
exhale it from the top to the middle to the bottom. And if you just let yourself slow down for a second, and feel the
Yeah.
breath
Hmm.
enter the bottom of your body, the middle, and the top, immediately the nervous system calms down.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting is that I know when, you know, in addition, I'm like, I don't want this to be all about Anne's health crises, but I'll tell you what, I mean, being being unhealthy, I mean, it affected every part of my body, and
Yeah.
the other part, besides being overweight, being diagnosed with diabetes, having neuropathy. I also was diagnosed with high blood pressure. I mean, that's what typically had actually that's what my oncologist had said to me, that I want you to get more blood work because your blood pressure is stroke level high, which
Oh dear.
scared me, really
Yeah.
scared me. And so interestingly enough, I'd done a lot of breathing exercises since my, I had a double mastectomy. When you have surgery on your chest, after that surgery, it was hard for me I did a lot of long format narration. And so I needed to figure out new ways to breathe,
Hmm.
because a lot of times narration is lots of long sentences. Sometimes they're not written wonderfully well. And so I think the better you can breathe, the better you're going to be able to execute your sentences that are long and unwieldy and make them sound more natural. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot to breathing. And I found that because being diagnosed with high blood pressure, then of course they put me on medication, which I'm now off, which is I'm so thankful
Yay.
for.
Good
But
for you.
I still take my blood pressure every day, just to kind of keep it in check. And I found that if you're breathing and then exhaling, and you're breathing before you take your blood pressure, it's amazing how low your blood pressure can go
Yes.
once you've done a few of those breathing exercises. And it's funny because my doctor will ask me, she'll say, are you breathing before, because my blood pressure was so significantly lower. Every time I go in there and I take it, and I said, let's see how low I can get my blood pressure this time, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just do some breathing. And then exhaling too through my nose really helps a lot, and it
Yep.
lowers your blood pressure amazingly well. That,
Yep.
and mentally going to that place where you're happy and not stressed.
Yep.
So it's incredible. Like, I see the numbers change, how it really can help. And it's so interesting because people say, just take a couple of deep breaths. And I'm like, yeah, what does it really do? Okay. But in reality, I've seen the numbers. I see the
Magic.
numbers go down, and it's incredible,
Hmm.
just what good breathing will do, and what good breathing will do in order to execute your scripts more believably and authentically, because you're not just like, oh my god, I'm just going to read, and then I just ran out of, because we don't really run out of breath when we talk naturally, because we pace ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
we know where we're going to take that breath. But when there are words that aren't ours, if you have good breath support, you can certainly navigate them and make it sound a whole lot more natural and a whole lot
Hmm.
more. So breathing to me is incredibly important, and especially in a live directed session. I would imagine that. Do you ever get nervous, like when you're in a
Oh
live directed
yeah.
session, and do you practice your breathing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Because
probably
it's
just comes
breathing is just
naturally to you.
like
Like,
breathing is meditation, and
yeah.
it's people think that meditation. There's a great book that I got one of the trips that I was in India, and the preface began with, people think that meditation is about turning your mind off.
Mm-hmm.
That will only happen if your friend hits you on the head with a hammer. I don't
Mm.
recommend it. think of think
I
of
like that,
meditation.
because that's what I always thought
It's
was.
not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's about not getting engaged with your thoughts. The way I describe it is like you're at Starbucks, you're reading your book. It's really quiet.
Yeah.
But then it gets busy. Like now the lunch rush has come in. But you still want to read your book and you don't want to leave because you've got the chair in the
Right.
sun and it's great and it's wonderful, but everyone's talking around you and you're being really distracted. So you focus on that book.
Mm-hmm.
And you're focusing on that book and you fall straight back into the story and all of a sudden everybody else in Starbucks
You're
fades
right.
away. They're still there.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not paying attention. That's meditation. And you do that with
Ah,
breath.
I love that. Okay.
It's just you paying attention. That's all meditation is. And if you can do that with your breath, of paying attention to the feeling of the inhale, feel the breath coming through your nostrils.
So when you're so in the morning, when
Yep.
you're up and you're meditating, right? Are
Hmm.
you simply just breathing? You're not necessarily thinking, let's say, positive thoughts, or
Some days I do positive
yeah.
thoughts. Most
Mm-hmm.
days I just do breath because it
Mm-hmm.
helps me start my day with a really calm peace of mind. I
Mm-hmm.
feel much more
Mm-hmm.
grounded. I'm not because an alarm will jar you as you're waking up and it kind of pulls you out of your sleep. you're not necessarily ready to be out of sleep. So if you give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you get out of bed and just sit in a comfortable position and breathe and ground yourself, it starts your day in a completely different energetic place than launching yourself up out of bed, running to,
Sure.
throw the coffee on, do whatever it is that you're doing in the morning. I take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be long. Our days are busy. So you just sit, breathe, and start your day from there.
What do you have any in terms of, let's say, if you're in the studio for a long amount of time, maybe somebody is doing an audiobook or a long e-learning module, what are your recommendations? Because for me, I know what my limit is in the booth before I have to kind of get up and shake things around and, go pet my cat, because for me, I'm super hyper focused because I am trying so hard to just be in the story and to be in the moment. It's exhausting mentally at some point. What are your tips on if you have to be in the booth for a really long time in terms of, do you need to, should they get up and stretch, breathe? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I stand for most of my sessions just because I'm comfortable doing that. But for long stuff, I do have a stool that I bring in to sit in. I do chair yoga if I'm in a booth where I'm sitting for an extended period of time.
Okay.
So just simple body stretches, twists, bringing my knees to my chest, turning my body side to side, deep breaths, back rolls, spinal rolls are really helpful. Especially when you're waiting for release or you're waiting for approval for something. But yeah, get up. If you're sitting down, get up and move around as quietly as you can and stretch, breathe, reach as high as you can to the ceiling and stretch, especially stretch out your ribs, stretch out your torso. It's helpful.
Have you found that physical stretching, exercise, breathing has actually changed your voice in a physical sense?
Probably. I mean, you can change the shape of your body by changing your lung capacity. So, because you can change your ribs, because it's just muscle. It's the same as working a bicep.
Right.
So, it's muscle and bone. But you can, if you're working your intercostals a lot, you can actually change the shape of your torso and broaden your ribs. So, but yeah, I think that in general with my voice, when I'm calm, my voice is much deeper. When I'm not calm, my voice pitches up into my head because I'm tense and I'm not breathing.
That makes sense. And I feel like your voice is coming from here. And your vocal. And any specific exercises that can help maybe relax vocal cords, because I feel like that's where a lot of tenseness is. When people are reading, and their voice tends to pitch up a little bit higher. Anything that can help relax in terms
Sticking your tongue out does a ton of fantastic stuff.
I love that.
You grab your tongue with a tissue just because it's difficult to hold your tongue with your fingers because it's slippery. But if you grab your tongue with a tissue and pull it out and try to speak, it actually stretches the tongue root. Simple pressing with your thumbs into your tongue root and turning your head up. So you're pressing underneath the jaw because the tongue root can get really, really tense, especially again, if you are uncomfortable, if you are stressed out, all the things, your tongue will hold. So getting your tongue out of your mouth and then tying toothpick, I say tongue out of your mouth,
I love
will
that.
relax the tongue root. And one of my favorites, which can be uncomfortable but very, very beneficial, is stretching out the muscles of your jaw.
Okay.
By putting your thumbs, the heel of your thumb, just below your ear, underneath your cheekbone.
Yes.
So you go underneath your cheekbone, so up over your jaw, between your jaw and your cheekbone. And push and pull down. So you're pushing and you pull down, and the bone of your thumb will press right into that muscle. It's like, If you do them both at the same time, whee!
I love that. I want to be able to keep my voice in a more relaxed, lower sound, and I feel like that might be something that could help me to do that. And maybe when you said when you're more relaxed, yes. When I'm more relaxed, my voice is lower. When at the end of the day, I have to be careful when I'm doing long, let's say e-learning modules, right? But because if I don't if I start to just go into like automated mode, right, then my voice tends to get higher and higher, and especially I think for females, it tends to get a little screechy. And then I'm kind of talking like this. I'm a little bit more stressed, and so I will tell people like be careful. That's
Shake it
why I
out.
say shake it out,
Yep.
do some breathing, because what you're not realizing is that all of a sudden your voice is now starting to sound very strained.
Mm-hmm.
So. Wow. So what tips can you give for our bosses listeners out there? What would be your best tips for mental, physical, and health for impacting positively their voice and their voiceover careers? What are your best tips?
No, take time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of us, just people in general, tend to be, we give too much. Like we're making sure we're taking care of the kids, we're taking care of our partner, we're taking care of whatever we're doing, we're taking care of. Make sure to take time for yourself, because
Amen.
you cannot pour from an empty
Yeah.
cup. So you have to make
Yeah.
sure your cup is full, and
Mm-hmm.
then from there you can give. So it's,
Yeah.
again,
I
as you're
agree.
waking up in the morning, take 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's and it's like, if you've got a busy house, take 5 minutes in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
sit down and close the door. No one's allowed in. It's
Sure.
5 minutes.
Sure.
And just be with yourself and breathe. If you can get out for a walk, whether it's on a treadmill
Yeah.
or outside, it doesn't matter where you're walking, walk.
Yeah.
It's just beneficial for your lungs, it's beneficial for your mind, and it's beneficial for your
Mm-hmm.
body.
And I'm
If you
so
can
happy.
meal prep,
I'm so happy you said that, because I finally have made that time for myself.
it's
Yes.
so important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so important. You have to take the time.
Yeah.
And
Meal prep. I'm sorry.
meal prep, yeah, meal prep. It's like, if you can, I take about an hour on a Sunday to
Okay.
meal prep for most of the week. It doesn't take that much time.
Mm-hmm.
Keep things simple. And it's almost like when you're packing for a trip and you don't want to take too much clothes. So you
Right.
mix and match, like you make 12 outfits from like 4 pairs of pants and 4 shirts.
Okay. Well, I
That
try.
you,
I
I know,
I
I'm
have a hard
terrible.
time
I
doing that.
pack
I have a
literally the
really
kitchen
hard time
sink. I
doing
haven't
that.
figured it out.
Yeah.
But other people are good at packing. We're just
Yes.
using this
Yes.
analogy. But it's the same kind of thing with food, that if you
Mm-hmm.
pick kind of like, you know, eggs, tuna, chicken, and
Sure.
tofu, they're your 4 proteins that you really like,
Right.
and you really like this type, of lettuce, and you really like this type of vegetable, and you really like this type of carb, like
Mm-hmm.
sweet potatoes or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is that you're
Mm-hmm.
liking. Make all of those, and then you can mix and match them into meals, and they're ready to go, already
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Oh, so I want to kind of expand on that. So what do you do? Now we're going to be at VO Atlanta.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend when you are traveling? Are you prepping food for when you go, or are you, researching like places that you might eat and healthy options?
I am known at conferences for figuring out where the grocery store is, or if I can
Got
order
it.
from a grocery store into the hotel. I always bring a blender.
Oh,
So
okay.
I always bring a little magic bullet so that
Oh,
I can make
okay.
protein shakes.
Okay.
So I'll bring
Okay.
my own protein powder. I'll bring anything that I can. I'm probably going to get
Mm-hmm.
arrested at some point flying, because I've got all of these powders in Ziploc bags. Like,
I've been doing that too. I have I'm drinking my electrolytes here, and I
yeah.
have all the powders. And yeah, I did get stopped actually, and they
Oh
said,
my
"Well,
God,
you've got a lot of
so
special
funny.
food in here," and I'm like, "Well." You're right. You do have to, and it's helped me so much to plan. As a matter of fact, I end up, either losing or maintaining weight for the last few trips that
Yep.
I've gone on, and I'm so thankful for that, because typically that's the time where like, oh, I'm just gonna let myself go and have a drink, or I'm gonna let myself go and have, the bread at dinner, and
Hmm.
thankfully that has not happened. So
Yeah, and there's tricks
yeah,
around it. It's like, if you want to have a
yeah,
glass of wine, have a glass of wine. Just, it's
right,
like, if you have a lot of fruit during the day,
yeah,
cut out a couple of pieces of fruit, and then you have
mm-hmm,
your glass of wine. So it's about balancing things out and understanding where
mm-hmm,
calories come from and how things are burned. But yeah, big planner. Like, I will always get spinach and boiled eggs and whatever fruit. I'll always have something in the fridge so that I have breakfast
got it,
in my room. So I get
got
up
it.
and I go to the
Oh,
gym,
okay, okay,
and then I have
mm-hmm,
breakfast in my room, and I have snacks in my bag, whether they're protein shakes or something, handful of nuts or whatever.
sure.
And then I only ever have dinner in the restaurants.
That makes sense. And that makes a lot of sense. I'm so glad you said that. You're validating me because
Yep.
I bring all of my stuff, for, breakfast and during the day, but then at night I'll go and I'll have my lean protein and vegetables. And,
Yep.
and it's amazing how accommodating restaurants are these days,
Yes,
which
they are.
I'm very, very happy for. I'll just be like, oh, I have dietary restrictions, and if I think they don't understand, I'll just say I'm allergic. I'm allergic to
Yeah.
potatoes, or
Yeah.
I'm allergic to bread. No, but they always come through for me, so I'm very happy that I've been able to make that work. But so I'm excited to kind of see you in Atlanta, and
Me
so
too.
now I feel validated. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely.
This has been an amazing conversation. Bosses, how can bosses find out more about you and find you on the internet? And maybe if they have any questions for you, chat with you about health and fitness and voiceover.
On the interwebs, you can find me. My voice website is Emma at emmaoneillvo.com, or my yoga website is mysoreto.com, like mysoreto
I
dot com,
love that.
because that's where it comes
And
from. And
we'll put the
Instagram
links
is
on
my
our
name, Emma
show
O'Neill.
notes.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. We'll put those links on the show notes. Emma, it has been so wonderful talking to you. I'm so excited to see you in person again
yes,
at VO Atlanta, and maybe I'll get to work out with you in the
absolutely.
morning, and we'll compare notes on our meals.
I
So
love that. I love that.
thank you so much. Bosses, I want you to take a moment and imagine a world full of passionate, empowered, diverse individuals giving collectively and intentionally to create the world they want to see. You can make a difference. Visit 100voiceswhocare.org to learn more. Big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can connect and network like Emma and myself. Find out more at ipdtl.com. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week.